We've been talking with some of the candidates for the mayor's race in the city of Slidell. Got another one we're going to chat with right now. Greg Cromer is with me. Greg, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you today, Charles?
I'm great. So I want to know a little bit about you first, and then we'll come back and jump into some issues. So give me a little bit of your background as it relates to running for this office.
Well, you know, I've been preparing, I guess, for most of my adult life to be the mayor of Slidell. Southeastern graduate in 1981, industrial technology and management. Prepared me for project management jobs throughout my career. At Michoud for 27 years with Lockheed Martin, and then another 4 with a little small company called Geocent that we did work with Boeing and with Jacobs Engineering. But it's always been project management type work that managed people, budgets, and schedules from hundreds of dollars to $1 million plus projects. I got my master's degree in 2015. Went back to school at 56 years old and earned a master's degree in business from LSU, which has helped me better understand finance and managing budgets, which would put me in a good position with the city. I was on the city council from 2002 to 2008 when I was elected to the legislature, and that in itself gave me an insight to city government functions, city departments, city services, city budget, and legislative experience since 2008. I'm in my 11th session up there now. Gave me a real deep understanding of how federal and state regulations can have an impact on local governments and local issues, how local governments can be stymied by overregulation, and how local governments can be successful and move out with the assistance of state and federal funding and less regulation.
All right, let's personalize this real quick. What when you're not politicking or working, what do you like to do? Do you ever have time to do that?
Well, you know, I've got a 5-year-old grandson, and I've got a 2.5-week-old grandson just born on February 5th. Spend a lot of time with my grandson. You know, we fish a little bit. He plays ball, soccer, t-ball, things of that nature. We spend a lot of time with that. And I guess my biggest vice is golf. I'm an avid golfer and try to play at least once a week if at all possible. That hadn't been possible since we jumped into the campaign mode and with the weather here lately, but that, golf and fishing. I used to hunt a little bit, but just it's gotten to the point where it's too hard to find a place to hunt these days with all the lands being consumed by corporations and what have you, landowners not welcoming people onto their properties anymore. So,
all right, well, I won't ask you details about your golf game. I won't. We won't go there. We'll keep it clean.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump into. Let's talk a little bit about you and the mayor's race in Slidell, in the sense that we are at a time, I think, where folks are frustrated with government, and I think there's a very pervasive attitude out there that what does it matter? Nothing's going to change. It's always going to be the same. So what would you say to that person if that's a potential voter and you're talking to them? What would you and they're saying that to you? What would your response be?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. We're hearing it. We're seeing it every time we have an election. You know, when the turnouts are 10 to 15% of the registered voters. I've actually been to a couple of doors in my walks around the city where people have told me, you hand them a card and they say, "No, thank you, we don't vote." So. Voter apathy, voter concern is a huge issue. You know, I've been in elections campaigns with friends that have lost by 3 votes, by 7 votes, and you could go back and look at the voter rolls and see where cousins and family members didn't vote on the day that the election occurred, and they could have put the candidate over the top. So your only voice in how things are run is through the individuals that you elect to office. And if you don't pick and choose the right individuals and educate yourself and take the time, you know, a brief moment out of your busy day to cast your ballot, then you're kind of getting what you're stuck with. or you're stuck with what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the other side of that is, Washington politics, and it's starting to filter down to state politics, it seems like, with the divisions between the parties and folks not coming together, statesmen not stepping up and pulling for a consensus that drives from the middle instead of from the far left or far right. But to drive our state or community forward, our country forward, for that respect, I think our federal government in particular, we've kind of been stagnant for several years because of the bickering and backfighting.
All right. Well, let's do this. We're going to take a break. I want to come back and continue the conversation. Greg is running for mayor of Slidell, and we're going to get into some specifics about the city of Slidell next. Back with Greg Cromer. We're talking a little bit about the race for mayor in the city of Slidell. And so I have asked this a couple of times already this week, so I'll ask you. I want to hear your take on it. What is what are the biggest challenges facing the city of Slidell for whoever is the next mayor?
Well, Slidell is no different than any other municipality or local government in our area. The big problems that people are most concerned about, and it's not a big problem in Slidell, but it's a concern, is crime and public safety. Another issue is infrastructure, flooding, drainage, roads, sewer systems, and of course the last issue would be the economy. We have the same problems as everybody else, but to differing degrees. We don't have a significant public safety issue or crime issue because our police department has been fairly effective at deterring the crime issue. It's something that always creeps or tries to creep into our area and our neighborhoods, and we've been very aggressive at pursuing that and stymieing that before it takes off and becomes a big problem. Our sewer, water, drainage, roads, infrastructure issues, everybody on the Northshore seems to experience those. We've got levee work that's being done by the state and the parish and the city to protect internal to the city limits itself. Won't have any impact on the exterior of the city, but we've got $100 million worth of grants from the federal government post-Katrina that just came through last year that we're working on infrastructure on the south side of town. We'll have to pursue additional funding in the future, probably not through Katrina funding because that's about gone, but through other vehicles to continue our infrastructure refurb and rehabilitation. Our infrastructure is getting aged, and it starts to weaken and crumble. Economy, we talk about growth in the city of Slidell and the growth of our economy. It's kind of stagnant right now. I think our population is too large for the infrastructure we have in place, so I don't necessarily want to grow our population, but I want to grow our economy. If we grow our economy, then we'll have the opportunity to actually grow in population because people will want to come to Slidell for job opportunities and a vibrant place to live and work and play. And that tax base will support that growth, and it's a cycle that perpetuates itself. The growth opportunities I see, Slidell is kind of at a crossroads with the space program. Essentially, we ramped up in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s with the space shuttle program. Now that that's over, the Space Launch System, the next generation, is just as large a program, but they're doing it with 20% of the workforce. So we don't have the influx of intellectual capital that we had back in the 70s and 80s with the PhDs and the engineers and things of that nature. So we've got to work with Stennis and Michoud on the programs that they have in existence and the new businesses that they're growing. Work with the tech sector in New Orleans and over into Baton Rouge and pull some of the offshoots of that. The companies that support the DMCs or the DXCs and the IBMs over in Baton Rouge and Entertainment Arts in Baton Rouge, the companies that support the Blade Dynamics, support Vivace, and support the NASA programs at Michoud, the companies that, like Rolls-Royce, that does engine testing at Stennis, Lockheed Martin, who does rocket engine testing at Stennis, get the suppliers for what they need, people that create buttons, if you will, screws, bolts, the byproducts that support those big programs. We welcome any 10, 20, 50, 100-man operation into the city, and we could put them into the storefronts that are vacant now. I'd love to put those storefronts back in commerce, generating sales tax dollars, but if we can't, let's put them back in commerce so that they don't look blighted, and we get businesses in here that will actually generate some sales tax revenue through the capital that's spent through those individuals that are working there and those businesses that are needing supplies. So we could repurpose a lot of these storefronts that are closed and vacant now and put people to work in the process.
All right, Greg, we're almost out of time. So real quick, 30 seconds, a minute, why are you the best qualified candidate for this job?
Well, my work history, my education, my experience in government all have prepared me for this. If I'm elected, I'll be available, visible, and approachable. Available in that City Hall will always be open and available to anybody who wants to come by, whether it be business, individual, constituent, whomever. Visible, I shop the same stores, the same movie theaters, same churches. My grandchildren play on the same ball fields. I'll be visible. I'm in all those places. And approachable. I love people. I love Slidell. I love being able to work with people to come to consensus problems and to help people with find solutions. So approachable. Come to me. Talk to me. I'd rather you talk to me than talk about me. If I don't know what you need, I can't help you. So talk to me. Communication. That'll be the key in our administration, working with the people that are boots on the ground, know what's going on, our constituents in the community, and working with them to make Slidell the best place it can possibly be for us to live, work, and play. All
right. Well, we appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with us this morning. His name is Greg Cromer. He's running for the city of Slidell, and thank you, sir, for your willingness to serve.
Thank you for the time this morning, Charles. Good to talk to you, sir.
All right. We're going to come back with your sports next.